Hello and welcome everyone to biology class of Fun Scholar. So today we are continuing the discussion about the topic improvement in food resources, which is the chapter under standard 9 for CBSE board. Now we have already discussed some of the topics in the previous two lectures, and this is the third lecture where we are going to proceed with other topics like crop protection management. That means how can we protect the crops after harvest from both biotic and abiotic agents. Then we will deal with animal husbandry, that means commercially rearing of animals, and how that is done in case of cattle farming, poultry farming, then fish and apiculture. All these things will deal now subsequently. So without any further delay, let's begin today's discussion. So first we have got a video to watch regarding crop protection management. I have already given you a brief idea about what to protect and from which to or from what type of dangers I am telling to protect the crops. So we are protecting the crops from biotic agents, means living organisms such as the pests, the rodents who actually eat the plants and waste a lot, and the nematodes are there, the worms that fall under this category, and abiotic agents such as moisture, humidity, then temperature, water, so that leads to rotting of the crops. So how that happens and what can we do in order to prevent that, we'll watch through this video. So let's watch this video.
In our last video, we spoke about the need for the protection of crops. What do crops need protection against? Can you tell me the various factors that may affect the crops? The ones that attack the crops are called infestants. We need to now look at the various infestations that the crops may have to face. Who do you think are the not so good friends of crops? Weeds, that's right. And what exactly do they do to the crops? They will eventually kill the good crops. Kill? How can weeds, which are just plants, destroy crops? Competition is the answer to this question. Weeds are unwanted plants that grow alongside the crops. They do need food, they occupy space, and they depend on nutrients and light. If the weeds continue to grow, they will take up a huge share of these factors and in turn would threaten the growth of the crops. What other things can infest the crops? Insects or pests? Have you heard about the pest attacks on crops? Just like weeds, insects and pests are also harmful for the growth of the crops. They tend to damage the crops physically. How do you think they cause damage to the crops? These insects cut the roots and stems. The damaged leaves that you spot in a crop are more often than not the work of insects. Insects and pests all suck the cell sap out of the leaves. Cell sap, as you know, is nothing but the stored food of the plants. If pests attack the storage, the plant's existence is naturally threatened. Have you seen some fruits and plants that have holes bored into their surface? If yes, then you have witnessed another type of attack of the pests. Now that you know about the weeds, the insects, and the pests, what do you think is another threat to crops? Diseases. Yes, diseases are a major threat to crops. Who causes these diseases anyway? Are they a set of bacteria? Yes, apart from bacteria, various pathogens, fungi, and viruses can cause diseases to plants. But how do these bacteria get into the plants? What are the pathways through which these harmful agents travel? The water, air, and soil are the points of entry of these pathogens. Can all of these be controlled? Is there any which these threats could be contained? Well, I'm sure you're quite familiar with a few of them. For example, the pesticides and the herbicides do keep away a few insects and pests. We can also spray chemicals that selectively affect the unwanted plants and kill them. However, farmers also resort to mechanical removal of weeds. This process is commonly referred to as the weeding process. So these were the control mechanisms which you've heard the popular saying, prevention is better than cure. What prevention mechanisms can be employed? How about preparing a seed bed that would ensure better germination of seeds? Different cropping patterns can also help farmers to get a better yield. How can you protect plants against diseases? Varieties that are pest resistant can be chosen to prevent major damages due to a pest attack. At the same time, varieties of crops that can stand nature's extremities can also be a good choice for a farmer. Now that we have addressed different control and preventive mechanisms of plant damage, let us look at the problems that arise post-harvesting of crops. We assume that once crops are harvested, they are free from any threats. That's not the case. Once grains are harvested, the grains need to be stored properly. When grains are not stored properly, it could lead to major losses. What kind of damage can be caused while storing grains? There are two major threats to crops while storing them. The biotic factors and the non-biotic factors are the two threats. What do the biotic factors include? Attack of rodents, pests, and other living organisms are the biotic factors, while the abiotic factors will include the inappropriate atmospheric conditions like excess moisture and high temperatures. These can damage the quality of the crops, lead to loss of weight, and even be the cause of discoloration of grains. How can we prevent the damage caused due to the reasons of storage? Places where grains are stored should be clean and must maintain high standards of hygiene. How can we prevent moisture from harming stored grains? Drying the grains before storing them can help solve this problem. Grains should be dried in the sun as well in the shade before storing them. Fumigation, which is a method of letting out gas that suffocates pests, can also help protect the grains from pests. With that, we have looked at the idea of crop protection in detail. Let us study animal husbandry in our following videos.
So from the video only, we have got very good and detailed idea about the threats to crop as well as the methods to combat them. Now, crop threats include, for revision purpose, we need to go through this, that number one, weeds, which compete for nutrients, space and light, and thus reducing the growth of the crops. So the optimum amount of nutrients which should be available to the desirable plants, that means our crops, that is reduced due to this competition, and a part of it or a substantial part of it will go to the weeds, which are the plants which are not useful for our purpose. Hence, if we can remove them, then it will be better, because whole of the nutrients from the soil will be available to the crops. How can we do that? We can mechanically remove the weeds as told in the video, the process which is known as weeding. Then we can take help of the chemicals called weedicides, which help in killing the weeds also. And when the seed bed is made properly by maintaining proper rows, and then the distance between or the interval between the seeds, they are maintained well, so in that case also we can minimize the chances of growth of this weeds. Now examples of weeds include xanthium, parthenium, then cypernicus, all these things, and these are the scientific names. and within bracket the local names are given over there: gokru, then gajar ghas, motha, all these things. The second type of threat comes from insect pest. So what do they do? How do they damage the crops? They cut the roots, stems and the leaves. So it leads to vegetative loss. But if roots are cut and damaged, we know the function of roots, that is to absorb water and minerals. So if that doesn't happen, obviously plants or the crop plants specifically won't survive. Then we have the stems and the leaves. There also the cell sap is stored, and the green leaves and the green stem take part in photosynthesis. So food will not be made for the whole plant. So therefore, and these are the vegetative parts. So the quality of the crop plant, that is reduced. Then sucking cell sap, the cell sap which is present in the vacuoles of the plant cells actually. So the cell sap is the stored form of food present in the vacuoles of the plant cell. So that is sucked, and then there is no stored food for the plant to depend on during the unfavorable conditions, and this lead to the loss of weight of the plant, also the crop plant I'm talking about. Then boring into stems and fruits. So therefore some worms, what do? They make holes. Those holes you can say, because when we go to the market and we segregate the good vegetables and the fruits, we look for this holes only, that we do not pick up those which have got holes. But imagine the seller, that means who is there to sell. If nobody buys that, so the loss will ultimately be incurred by that shopkeeper, and also that shop from the farmer who has actually sold the produce to that shopkeeper or the retailer. So the loss will also be incurred by the farmer. So this type of damage actually hampers the profit of the farmer, reduces the profit many folds. It results in weakened plants and reduced yields, and also the weight and the quality of the grain produced from these crop plants, that is also lost. Diseases. Diseases are caused by pathogens or which are microscopic in nature, like bacteria, fungi and viruses, and these are transmitted through soil, water and air. Just like humans have got different modes of transmission of diseases, some diseases are airborne, some are waterborne, some are foodborne. So like that only for plants also we have got different means of transmission of the diseases, either through food, or food means through the soil, because from the soil only they obtain the nutrients. So from the soil, water and air, so the diseases are spread from one plant to another also. And that is why cropping practices or the cropping pattern here comes to be helpful. We have already learned in the previous lecture that how intercropping can help in reducing the spread of the diseases. If the same type of plants are present in the vicinity or in the neighboring areas, so it becomes very easy for the disease to spread within a short span of time. But if the plant variety is different, so then that plant variety may not be attacked by that particular pathogen, because each pathogen is specific to a particular plant variety. So therefore if we practice different cropping patterns, specifically mixed cropping and intercropping, when we are growing more than one crop in the same crop field, then we can reduce the chances of the spread of diseases. Control methods include chemical and mechanical methods. In the chemical method, we have got pesticides. The pesticides which are going to kill the pest. Pest means the harmful substances which are going to kill the crop field, crops which are of use to us. So herbicides, These are sprayed to control the weeds which are actually herbs. So they fall under the category of herbs according to their feature, but they are actually the weeds, the unwanted plants that grow in the crop field. So the pesticides which kill the herbs or which are weeds are called herbicides. Then insecticides, the insecticides control the insects from the net itself, because side means to kill. So the chemicals which kill insects are called insecticides, fungicides, again which will kill fungi. They are sprayed, and but in the right amount it should be sprayed, and uniformly it should be sprayed, so that it's not that a portion gets majority of the nutrients, and also in the soluble form, so that it is easily absorbed by the roots of the plants. And also the if when it has to kill the microbes. And also I am talking about the amount, because we have already known that if they are since they are the chemicals, if they are sprayed in excess, it will lead to various types of pollution like water pollution, soil pollution, all these things. Environmental concern is about pollution only, and mechanically we can remove the weeds by our hand, which is called weeding, but this method is very cumbersome, because for large crop field it is not possible, it is not a feasible process. Now for preventive measures, we have proper seed bed preparation. We have to prepare, as I told you, that we have to prepare the seed bed properly, so that before the sowing of the seeds, we can plow the bed properly, so that whatever weeds are there, we have already known about green manure, so they can be mulched and mixed thoroughly, and so that when they are uprooted properly and mixed thoroughly, so that when they are decomposed, they supply the nutrients to the growing crop plants when they germinate from the seeds. Then after mulching and mixing them with the soil, we can prepare the seed bed. Timely sowing, at this, if we sow the seeds together at the same time, it will help control the competition by the weeds. What happens if there is much space left over? Some seeds we have sown, some we haven't. Then what will happen in that vacant space? There will be the chance of the weeds growing. But if all the land area is simultaneously filled up, so then there will be the less chance of the weeds growing in there. Then intercropping and crop rotation, we have already done that. But how it helps to control the weeds? In case of intercropping, I already told that it prevents the spread of pest and optimize nutrient use. I have already discussed in the previous lecture. Do refer to that for your knowledge, that whenever there is competition, we should take the combination such that one crop plant will take a set of nutrients and the other one will either be complementary, or it will be able to replenish that nutrients to the soil. Then we have crop rotation, which is sequential planting of different crops to maintain soil health. Here also with the same principle, that to replenish the nutrients, we use that one cropping season we plant one type of crop, and then in the next cropping season or subsequent cropping season we choose such crop which will be able to compensate the loss of nutrients from the land area of the soil. Summer plowing. So what happens when the soil is deeply plowed in summer? It destroys the wheat seeds and the pest. During the summer time, there is the presence of high temperature, and if there is the presence of any wheat seeds deep inside the soil, what will happen? Due to deep plowing, that will be exposed outside, and due to high temperature, the viability of the seed will be lost, and the chance of the growing of the weeds will be eliminated. Then resistant varieties, pest resistant varieties can be, actually this we have done in the topic of that crop variety improvement. So in crop variety also we can develop such crops which are resistant to pest, which actually have resistance to different temperature fluctuations. It can grow in a wide range of temperature. That will minimize the loss from both biotic agents as well as abiotic agents. Causes of storage loss includes biotic factors, as told, the living organisms, rodents, fungi, then mites, bacteria and insects. And abiotic factors include inappropriate temperature, moisture, then salinity, all these things. Impact of storage loss, what can happen? Quality may degrade. By quality, we mean to say discoloration, then decreased quality means decreased weight also. So this is the overall degradation of the quality, including discoloration, loss of weight, and the reduced seed viability. Right. So therefore, the seed viability means these seeds will not be able to germinate to produce healthy crop plants. So that is reduced seed viability. And ultimately, due to all the three above reasons, the last point, marketability will be reduced, because according to the quality of the seeds, they are priced. And if the quality is reduced, the prices will also be lower, and this will affect the income of the farmers directly. Pre-storage preparations. How can we prevent all these losses? By these steps. First one comes the pre-storage preparation. That means before storing the grains, what we can do. So thorough cleaning. We need to remove any contaminants to prevent infestation. What happens? The area you can see in this picture where the grains are to be stored. Before storing, the area should be cleaned thoroughly. The area should be disinfected so that there is no chance of growth of any pathogen. The area can be fumigated like this. So therefore, all these things will ensure a clean environment for storing of the crops. Second one is proper drying. First sun drying and then shade drying. Sun drying will help to reduce the moisture. And what will shade drying do? It will avoid overheating, because high temperature also can also lead to the degradation in the quality of the seeds. So we need to cool down the high temperature. For that we need to, but we cannot cool down by applying water, because it will again lead to further problems. It will lead to rotting, it will lead to growth of germs. Therefore, we need to cool down the overheated seeds by shade drying, which will avoid overheating and help to maintain the quality. Then in storage practices, means when we have stored the grains, during that stage what we can do, we can fumigate so that the grains are not infested with the pathogens, and we can work with systematic warehouse management. Time to time, it's not that once we have stored the grains and then we forget. Again, when we need the crops, then we go and visit the warehouse or the cold storage or the granary. Granary is the place where the grains are stored. So now, or the silo. So we need to check time to time and maintain all the factors which are necessary to maintain the quality of the seeds. So if we don't check that from time to time, and then at the end of the year or at the end of the season, once in a while, if we get to notice that the entire crop stored over there is completely destroyed, then it will be a huge loss, not only for the farmers but also on the food security of the nation, because food security will ensure that food is available to all the people during any extreme weather condition or any natural calamity. So both the income and the food security will be hampered. Therefore, timely checking and regular inspection is very much needed to maintain the quality of the grains all throughout the storage period. Then we come to the topic of animal husbandry. What do you mean by animal husbandry? Animal husbandry means nothing but the commercially rearing of different categories of animals, including the terrestrial animals, the aquatic animals, and as well as some of the insects such as the honeybees, as well as the silk worms, all those things for obtaining their products, which is in high demand in the market, which we use on a large scale on a regular basis. So animal husbandry, when we actually don't domesticate the animals for our personal benefit, but for the commercial benefit, for selling their products and then gaining profit from it, so that is known as an animal husbandry. So what is this and how it is done? We'll watch through this video.
What do you understand by the term animal husbandry? By definition, it is the science of breeding and caring for farm animals. What do we mean by breeding and caring for animals? I'm sure you have studied about hybridization of different breeds of animals in lower grades. Why do we employ techniques of hybridization? The answer is quite simple. It is to ensure good qualities of animals which prove advantageous to humans. What all does the management of animals then involve? It involves work in three distinct areas. Animals need to be fed, breeding of animals is planned, and diseases that attack animals must be controlled. That seems like a lot of work. Why do we need animal husbandry? As we know, the population of humans is on the rise. It is necessary to provide food for their needs. Animal husbandry takes care of the growing needs of the population to a large extent. Animal husbandry includes different types of occupations like cattle farming, poultry farming, and many more. We will study a few of the lessons that follow. In this lesson, we will look at cattle farming. Which animals do cattle include? Cows? Yes, cows and bullocks, oxen, bulls are the most common cattle. What purposes do the cattle serve? They are dual purpose, and can you guess what those two purposes are? What is the main thing we get from cattle? Milk, that's right. Cattle farming comprises of milch animals, or in simple words, animals that provide us with milk. Milk, as we know, is the crux of the dairy industry. A variety of dairy products require milk as a raw material. However, the milking period of milch animals is very short. How do farmers ensure a constant supply of milk production throughout the year? This can be done by increasing the lactation period of these animals. What do we mean by the lactation period? This is the period during which the mother feeds the young cattle. Where would we find some species of cattle? Do all species have long lactation periods? Unfortunately, that's not the case. Only exotic breeds of cattle have long lactation periods. Such exotic breeds have many desirable qualities apart from long lactation periods. They have excellent resistance to diseases. These exotic breeds have been crossbred to find the ideal type of cattle. However, having exotic breeds of cattle does not ensure good outcomes of cattle farming. Cattle need to be taken care of. This involves a lot of efforts on the part of the owners. They need to make adequate provisions of shelter and food for animals. These shelters must adhere to basic requirements of hygiene. These shelters, for instance, are a must. They need proper ventilation. Food, on the other hand, must be provided for two major reasons. First, food should sustain their needs for maintenance of the body. Secondly, a additional food must be provided to suffice their bodily needs for producing milk. Is there anything specific that must be given to cattle? Well, cattle feed must consist of roughage, which is nothing but fiber. They should also be provided with micronutrients. This is with regard to their food requirements. What about the need to be protected from diseases? In order to protect cattle from diseases, which can be seen as well as those which are internal, cattle must be vaccinated. They must be closely monitored and proper medical facilities must be made available to them. If all these are in place, cattle farming can be a rewarding occupation. Cattle farming does serve the purpose then. What other purpose does cattle farming serve? Cattle, as we know, are used as draft animals. Bullocks, oxen, and bulls are used for farm labor. What work do cattle do on the farms? They are used for tilling, for driving carts, and for irrigation as well. There are two species of cattle that are most commonly used. Do you know what their scientific names are? They are known as Bos indicus cows and Bos bubalis buffaloes. The names are quite long, aren't they? Well, we can always refer to them as cattle or cows and buffaloes. With that, we have studied quite a lot about cattle, haven't we? In our next video, we will look at the idea of poultry farming. Trust
Okay, so now from this video we have understood somewhat about animal husbandry as well as about cattle farming. So now let's recapitulate both of these topics through this discussion. Animal husbandry is the scientific management of livestock animals focusing on feeding, breeding and disease control. So scientific management scientific means which is actually necessary or according to the need of the purpose and need of that particular animal for its proper growth and development. So that is scientific. For example, for instance, I tell you the basic idea is that the more I give the animal the feed, healthier the animal will be. But this is not scientific. It is not only the quantity of the feed, but the optimum amount. Just like for human beings, we have got balanced diet. Similarly for the animals, because ultimately they are also living organisms. So they also need the supply of the nutrients in adequate amount. So it is not that I am supplying only carbohydrate or only protein to the animals, but I have to supply each and every type of the nutrient necessary for its proper growth, development and for the purpose that it will serve for us, and then accordingly plan the meal of the animal. So that is scientific. Then livestock means all those animals who are reared commercially for use or for the benefit of the human beings. And it involves these steps. Feeding means taking care of the food. Breeding means the mating and producing offsprings. And disease control, we already know that we're vaccinating or when they are infested with diseases, providing them medicines, curing them, isolating the diseased animals so that the diseases do not spread from the sick to the healthy animals. Then we have got different types of farming, including cattle farming, sheep farming, goat farming, poultry farming, and this fish, which is also known as pisciculture, about which we'll study later on. Now, why do we need to commercially rear the animals? Because only due to the reason of population growth. The same reason for which we need the improvement in food resources from every sector, not only from the sector of crops but also from the sector of animals, because we are dependent on both the types of food from animal source as well as from the plant source. So for animals, we raise the animals for obtaining their products like milk, eggs and meat. And also the skin of the animals are, we know, are also used. The fur is used for making other products like the leather products, belt, shoes, bags and the jackets, all these things. Then human treatment, yes, this is very important point which is most of the time overlooked by the animal husbandry people or the managers who are managing this animal husbandry, that human livestock treatment, they are actually should kept in such places, crowded places, not properly fed, and then we obtain their products in a very unethical and in a very inhuman way. So that should be stopped. There should be growing awareness for human treatment of the livestock, influencing new standards. So when we treat the animals well, so their performance as well the products that they give, the quality of that product will also enhance. So we should keep in mind that we are taking away their products, but we should treat the animals in human way so that at the end of the day they are also killed, they are also, they should not be tortured the time that they are kept in the farm, so they should be properly taken care of. In cattle farming, we have two categories. One is the milch animals, which will produce milk. Another is the draught animal, which will be used for the farm work, such as tilling, irrigation, carting, and plowing. Earlier days, the plow was attached to the blocks, two blocks, and then it was used for plowing. So all these things are done by the draught animals under the cattle category. So the local breeds of India, example Red Sindhi and Sahiwal, they have got good resistance to diseases. So they are actually bred with exotic breeds like Jersey and Brown Swiss, which are selected for longer lactation period. Now imagine if both the breeds are crossed, then the offspring that will be produced, that will give us a long lactation period. That means the amount of milk produced throughout the lactation period from a single cow will be in huge amount, but and also that particular animal will be resistant to the diseases. So our expenditure in curing the animals by giving medicines, if it is infested with diseases, so that risk will be minimized. Then in crossbreeding, that is what we do, that we actually combine local breeds disease resistance with exotic breeds milk yielding capacity, so that we get the both of these features in the offspring. Milk production and lactation helps to actually enhance or to improve the quality, or helps to gain more profit in the milk industry, because from milk only we have so many products that can be manufactured. So milk production is an essential quality in case of the cattle farming, both the quantity of the milk, the quality and the quality of the milk. So and both these things are also associated with the duration of the lactation period. Acha, how we can properly take care of the cattle? First one is shelter. The shelter should be well ventilated. So roof shelter protect animals from rain, heat and cold. So therefore there should be proper care in terms of shielding them from the environmental conditions which are harsh, such as rainfall, for which they can also fall ill, high temperature and the extreme cold. They should be kept in the cow shed, and that should be well ventilated so that they can actually breathe properly, and in the ventilation process, so that the diseases that should not spread, and that should be checked due to this proper ventilation. Sloped flooring, the floor should be of sloping, that should be inclined, because the urine that they produce, that should be cleaned in a natural way, so that should have a connection with the nearby drain, or the fecal matter that they give out. We know cow dung is also very useful, and it is an essential component of biogas, which is a clean fuel, a source of renewable energy. So therefore we can reutilize that cow dung. So there should be proper way that is collected on a regular basis, and the cow shed is cleaned so that diseases do not form due to this dirty environment, and the urine should be passed on and washed away at the end of the day regularly. Animal grooming, regular brushing should be done, which will remove the parasites which dwell on the fur of the animals. So the insects, some ticks, so that should be removed, and the loose hair which will lead to itching and discomfort, that should be also looked after, and all these things will help in maintaining the cleanliness of the animal, and this cleanliness will ultimately actually help to avoid the diseases. Then feeding types. Feeding is of two types already mentioned in the video. One type of feeding will ensure that the nutrients are supplied to maintain the basic health of the animal. That means the animal is free from the diseases, it is actually active in the regular activities, and it is responding well. And another type of feed will ensure the good quality of lactation, and means the milk which will be produced from this cattle, that is supplied with the nutrients or the lactation nutrients, so that milk will be very high grade, and that can have higher pricing than the other milk which is of low quality. So therefore the supply of proper nutrients to the lactating mothers or the lactating cattle category can ensure the supply of good quality milk. And the feed components include basically this roughage, which is rich in high fiber. We know the animals, that means the cattle, are called ruminants. So they are herbivore animals. They can easily digest cellulose present in the roughage, and because they have got the enzyme cellulase and obtain nutrients out of it. And then concentrates are there. Concentrates means the nutrient dense food to support growth and milk output. So it is actually given in the form of cakes, which is a concentrated form of feed for the cattle to supply the nutrients for high quality milk production. Apart from it, we can give some vitamins and minerals which will act as micronutrients to boost the health also, as well as the milk yield and the quality of the yield in cattle. How can we manage the diseases? So first we have to know the diseases. The diseases will include external parasites, means which dwell on the surface of the body, which can cause skin diseases, the skin allergies, the skin infections caused due to the external parasites. Then internal parasites include the worms which affect the digestion process, and many other processes which, for example, liver flukes which damage the liver of the cattle, and for which they cannot eat properly and digest the food, and ultimately it can lead to death of the animal. And infectious diseases caused by bacteria and viruses which spread from one sick animal to another healthy animal, and for this category only isolation of animal is very necessary. That means the animal which is sick should be isolated and kept in a different area until and unless it recovers from its poor health. Then how can we prevent such diseases? By vaccinations from major bacterial and viral diseases which can happen to cattle. And then what are the signs of good health, that it is recovering or it is in good health? How can you understand? You will see that it is feeding regularly, it is sitting, standing in a normal posture, and whenever there is alertness, means it is responding to your instructions. So then you can understand, responding to the environmental stimuli also for which the body is designed. So then you can understand that yes, either it is recovering now or it is in a good state of health. So next we have poultry farming and egg and broiler production. This one we will do in our next lecture. So we'll try to wrap this chapter up in the final lecture that we'll do next day. And till now, if you have got any queries, do let us know in the comments, and stay tuned for the last lecture on this chapter. And thank you so much for joining with us. I'm Shushmita ma'am signing off for today. Take care until we meet next time. Bye bye.